Hello and welcome back to another digital art tutorial where today I'm going to show you how you can create this city silhouette design using Infinite Painter, but you could use a different app of choice if you wanted to, such as High Paint. Now this is actually part one, which is the daytime version, but there's also a nighttime version, which is part two, and that is available for my members here on YouTube. Becoming a member means you get early access to tutorials as well as exclusive videos and also a loyalty badge beside your name that grows over time. So if you want to get part two, you can check that out using the join button in the description down below. If you follow along with just today's tutorial, you'll find all of the requirements for today's design in the description. Infinite Painter users, you can download the actual palette file in the description, as well as there's also a helpful video on how to actually do that. And if you're using a different app of choice, such as High Paint, you can download the palette image in the description down below. Now, I've also provided a set of stamps. There is a lady and two men stamp set, which is available over on my Gumroad. It's completely free if you enter 0. And I've actually provided that for both Infinite Painter and High Paint as well. So you can grab the same brushes depending on what app you're using. But again, it's completely free if you enter 0. If you don't enter 0 and you enter a value, well, you'll simply be supporting the channel and the work that I do here. Anyway, all of that intro is now done. Enjoy today's tutorial and let's get started. So we're going to go for a canvas size with a width of 1668 and your height is going to be 2388. Once we hit create, that will take us through to our canvas. It's the same size as my screen. And then we're going to go ahead and straight away go up to our create options and go to perspective, scroll across to the option of grid and then tap on grid. Now you may or may not see this dot here. Turn this on and off using the magnet. You can drag this then down into the bottom right, and that will just give us a 4x4 kind of grid, and that will allow us to then be able to see each other's design and sort of lay things out accordingly. Now what this will mean is we're also going to leave the magnet turned on so it looks like this with the darker version. You'll only be able to draw vertically or horizontal, and that would speed up this process a little bit as well, believe it or not. So let's get started now with drawing in some items. The first thing we're going to want to go ahead and do is go to our brush. We're going to go to the monoline brush under calligraphy. The size, it doesn't really matter too much. I'll make it around about 20 so we can see it on screen. And if we go to our color here, if you tap on this pill here, you'll be able to change it to the palette that I've provided. And as you can see, this is the part 1 palette. There is also a part 2 palette, and there is a second part to this tutorial. As I may have already mentioned, you can get access to part 2 if you are a member of my channel. If you're not quite yet a member, you can hit the join button down below and join the rest of the family. So we're going to grab the first color here in the palette, and we're going to draw in a line across the screen. And again, we're using the magnets currently so we can see all of our work and see that it's nice and boxy. We can then go ahead and draw in another item, say over here, draw in a line here. I'm going to draw in a line. Now you're probably going to want to jump between your brush and the fill tool. Now one thing you can do is if you go up to your tools here, you can go down and hold down on the fill tool and drag it into the menu here at the top. If you don't have that, don't stress. All you need to do is tap here and go to fill. But I'm going to use my fill tool quite often. I'll tap and drag to the right hand side a little bit in both of those. That should get rid of the fuzzy edges, and you can hit the tick when you're done. Now let's go ahead and introduce our subject first. So we're going to create a new layer. We're going to go to our brush and we're going to go to the set at the very top here, the people standing set that I've provided. There are 3 different stamps in here. You can pick from whichever one you like. I'm going to use the woman 1 brush, and we can just simply go ahead and make sure that the size is set to a fairly decent amount, say 1500. That's quite large, but we'll tap anyway, because we can then go to our create options. We can go to edit. We can go to the option of basic transform, and we can scale her down in size, moving her into position down here. So on the floor that we've created here, and then with a little bit of a gap, just like this, and tap on the tick when you're done. Because we now have her in position, we can also introduce other elements. So if we go back to the layer underneath that you saw just flash there, we want to make sure again we're still using the monoline brush, so calligraphy and the monoline brush, and we can draw in a line here where her hand is to show that she's resting her hand on a railing of sort, like this. Then what we'll do is we'll go to our layers and create another new layer. We're going to go ahead and draw down these lines here that you can see. So we're going to draw in these lines here, like so. Then we're going to tap on this layer and we're going to duplicate it. We're then going to grab our create options, edit, basic transform, and then we'll move this across roughly so that it's like a third across, and then hit the tick when you're done. Then go ahead and tap on that layer again and duplicate that again. Then go back to your tools again, edit, basic transform, and move that one across again so it roughly sits in a third. Now you should have been able to create a full railing, and you can hit the tick when you're done. And then just simply go ahead and tap on the top one, merge it down, tap on that one, merge it down, and you can tap on it again and merge it down. You can then go ahead and tap on the magnet here, just turn it off momentarily, and then you can go ahead and draw in some diagonal lines through your design like so, just for the railing. So you can draw them in manually, hold your pen down at the end. You'll see it kind of do this little animation like so, and that's it just being converted into a shape, which is of course a straight line for us. And we'll just draw them all in. We're going to draw all of our sort of front elements here in the foreground, and then we'll make our way further back in the scene. So we'll just draw them in and we'll guesstimate the last one. That's perfectly fine. Awesome. Let's then go ahead and start to work in some new elements. We're going to keep the magnet off just for a moment. We're going to go ahead and just draw in a little bit of a ledge up here where we're going to draw in a line. I can pop my finger on the screen though once I've held my pen down. So you can draw a line, you can hold your pen and pop a finger on the screen and it will just anchor there perfectly horizontal. And then we can draw in another line like so. And that's perfectly fine. I don't mind that. We can go to our fill tool, tap and drag in there just to fill in the gap and hit the tick when you're done. That's going to act as like a bit of a light source later on. Let's also go ahead and introduce more elements. So I'm going to tap back on my magnet now. I'm going to bring it out a little bit, maybe where the door is potentially, and draw all the way down to the ground. Doesn't matter if you miss a pixel or two. Potentially then what you could do is just set your brush size even smaller, let's say down to about sort of a 7.5. And you could draw in a handle here, so you could draw outwards, then up, and you can just maybe make that a pixel or two wider on the end, and then draw in another bit like so, handle to the door. We can then go ahead and zoom up towards this top area where we can maybe draw in additional block of something. Now usually with all of these kind of cityscapes and rooftops, there's usually lots of say air conditioning units, etc., and all these kind of sort of industrial style units that we can then introduce into our design. I'm going to introduce a little bit of a ledge here and come down. I'll grab my fill tool and just fill that in, tapping and dragging to the right to get rid of the fuzzy line. And then from there we'll draw in a couple of legs, roughly the same heights, okay. And draw across, and then we'll draw up, we'll draw across, and then we'll draw down. That can be our nice industrial box. We can tap on our fill tool, tap and drag to the right, hit the tick when you're done. You can add additional elements to this even still. So you can go out a couple of pixels and just make that a little bit boxier, adding in additional sort of elements. Maybe that's a fan on the side of this unit. You could also go ahead and sort of draw in another box on the right hand side on the top edge. Maybe it's some sort of element where you've got some buttons or something enclosed in it maybe. So let's just introduce small little elements here. So I'm just creating another little box. Lots of boxes, lots and lots of boxes. You could use the rectangle tool of course if you wanted to otherwise. I'm then going to go ahead and draw in an aerial, and I want this to kind of run all the way up to the top there. So I was at 7.7. I'm just going to make it a bit wider to about 12 now and just go down the base of this a little bit more, trying to thicken out the bottom of the pole. Lovely. And then I'm going to create a new layer. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus. I'm going to go ahead and go to my tools up here. I'm going to go to circle under shapes. I'm going to draw in a circle like so. And then we're going to go ahead and squeeze it in a moment. So once you're happy with it, just tap on this icon here. Then go to your edit options. Go to the option of a basic transform. Now you may actually want to change it from basic to the option of distort. And then that way you can just flatten the disc in like so, creating a bit more of an ellipse. Hit the tick, grab your fill tool and tap and drag to the right to create your little radio disc. And then go to your create options and edit, basic transform again. And then you can go ahead and move this over here. You can go ahead and rotate it. You can scale it down in size if you want to. You can get away with slightly larger elements at the very front here because we are so close, of course. Hit the tick when you're done. And that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. We do want to introduce some kind of greenery options down here. So I'll tap on my ellipse up here that I just created. I'll tap on it. I'll merge it down. I'll create a new layer. So I've got a brand new layer, and the magnet, we want to tap on it and turn it off just for a moment. We're going to create a plant of some sort. So I'm going to draw in a line up to around about, say, here. You can see that for scale against our subject there. I'm going to draw in another line like so. So this one wants to be a little bit more angled, and then draw in another one like so, like this. We're then going to go ahead and go to our brush. We're going to change it to the option of sprayers, and believe it or not, we're going to use the option here of blood splatter. Now, I know obviously it's meant to be a blood splatter, but if you actually use it in a certain way, it can look like flowers. So if we set the size to around about, say, let's set that to about 24, and then you can just simply wiggle your pen up and down here and just go back over yourself a few times. Now you notice there's quite a lot of spacing, so what we can do is we can tap on our brush, we can tap here and go to the settings for the brush, and then we can make sure that the spacing is not set so that it's too far away from each other. So if we go to the head tab here at the bottom, you can bring the spacing down or up depending on what you prefer. If we bring it down to around about, say, 0.02 and then tap away, we can now add in some what I would call flowers up and down here. Just wiggling your pen up and down, and it's just that kind of greenery that we want. Up and down here, wiggle your pen up and down, just filling it out like so. Now what you also want to do is add in another plant down here, so don't adjust this brush yet back to normal. We're just going to quickly create another new layer. Go to your brush and change the brush, so tap on this arrow here, go back to calligraphy and the monoline brush, and then what you can do is you can draw in a curve down here, and then when you're done, just tap away. You can then tap on the layer, duplicate that layer, go to your cursor, go to the option of edit. We're going to go to basic transform. We're going to tap on this icon here to flip it horizontally, and we're going to move it across. And then we're going to hit the tick when we're done. We'll tap on the layer and we'll merge it down. And then we'll zoom in, we'll just join it up at the top, join it up at the bottom, go to your fill tool and tap and drag to the right just to fill it in. You've got yourself a nice little plant pot. You can hit the tick when you're done. We can then go back to our brush. We can go back into the option of sprayers and the blood splatter brush, and we can go round a few times here, just creating like a bit of a bush-like shape here. Make sure it's uneven towards the edges, like little random bits just sticking out a little bit further, and then it could potentially just run down onto the ground as well, like it's some sort of plant that just grows wild, and you can just create something a little something like this. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just sticking on the same layer for a minute, we're going to go to our brush. We're going to go to calligraphy again and the monoline brush, but we're going to tap on the monoline brush size and bring it down to around about, say, let's bring it down to a bit smaller than that. Let's go down to about 6.8. And we're going to draw in some cables here for electricity. So we're going to go across here. Hold your pen down to create an arc once you've done it, and you can bow it a little bit more like so. So you may want to do that a few times. You can just create a curve, a slight curve anyway, and then just allow it just to bend a little bit for the electricity. We'll just curve that across there like so. You may also want to zoom in up here and maybe create like a couple more interesting kind of cables off the back there like that. And there we go. We've got our front scene all done. You can then go ahead and tap on all of these layers and merge them all down into one layer. So you've got one layer for all of that. We can then create a new layer and drag it underneath the foreground. We can then go to our color and change it to the next color along, which is the second color in the palette. We're going to go ahead and change our brush quickly to the option of fills. Solid fill brush we want. And we're going to go to our create options. We're going to go to the option of shapes and rectangle. We're going to draw in another building. Now this one's going to be further back, of course. I'm going to draw in a building style sort of block roughly around about this sort of size. And you can then go ahead and tap it away when you're done. And then all we want to do is go back to our brush. We want to change it back to the option of calligraphy and the monoline brush. And we're going to detail this building now. So we're going to create a new layer just in front of it. We're going to detail one side and then duplicate all of the sort of extra details that we create. So I'm going to draw outwards just manually. I'm going to create like a curve outwards for some kind of stonework at the top. And then I'll just go from there. I think I will tap away. I'll draw up. Hold my pen down and pop a finger on the screen so I'm nice and horizontal. And I'll just draw down for a minute. And then I'll link them two together. So I can go to my fill tool and tap and drag to the right hand side a few times just to fill that in. Got a bit of a rock style stone like detail to this. We're then going to go ahead and draw in some windows, so we can tap on the magnet again. We can make our brush a bit bigger this time, maybe up to around about 10 or 12 with the sizing, and we can go ahead and create a new layer. And then we're going to just simply draw in a line for like a window, and you can zoom in and maybe detail it by adding in a horizontal kind of ledge or two like this with some sort of detailing on it. Then what you can do is you can tap on this layer now and duplicate it multiple times. So then tap on it, duplicate it, grab your edit and the basic transform and move that down. And you want to try your best to kind of draw it in line again. Tap on the tick when you're done. Then the best thing to do is tap on this and merge it down. Tap on it and duplicate it. Then go to your cursor and go to edit, basic transform, and again move it down and try and keep the gap the same. Hit the tick when you're done. And then tap on that, merge that into one layer, tap on it and duplicate it. So you can sometimes just draw an element once and then just keep repeating it by just duplicating it, merging it into a new layer like so, and hit the tick when you're done. You've got all this detail now down the side of the building. Now what we'll do is we'll tap on it, we'll merge it down, we'll tap on that one and merge it down. So all of these details on this right hand side are on one layer at the minute. The only thing I want to make sure we do is just here, I'm going to go ahead and draw in a line that goes at least past the halfway point and then down, and then another line across just to at least box it in, and then tap on the fill tool and tap and drag to the right, hit the tick when you're done. By the way, it's always really good with Infinite Painter if you hit the three dots in the top right and hit save, just gives the app a chance to catch up. We're then going to tap on this with all of our details on and duplicate it. We're going to go to our create options, edit, we're going to go to basic transform, and we're going to use this icon here to flip it horizontally and then move it across. So we're trying to line up the top line, but also of course make sure that those elements on the side of the building are also actually touching the building. So hit the tick when you're done. And now you've got a building that's detailed top to bottom. You can then tap on those, merge it down, tap on it and merge it down. So it's all on the building now. And then from there, we can again draw in new industrial style elements on the top of this as well. So around about say a 5% brush size, you can just introduce very simple things like platforms. You can color them in manually. You can use the fill tool, of course, if you want to. Otherwise, either, perfectly fine. We'll then draw in like another box of sort like this. You can just draw in the basic shapes if you want to start with, and then just go to town in a minute with your fill tool. Let's then draw in like a unit there that's got some legs, and then another unit above that too. It's just all about sort of blocks and units, to be honest, that look really, really cool with this style. A little something like this. We can then draw in like another big one here, some sort of big unit, and then another little small one off the side. Draw in another one like this. As I mentioned, you can then go to your fill tool, tap and drag to the right multiple times just to fill in all of your gaps. Tap and drag, tap and drag, tap and drag. Hit the tick when you're done. You can then introduce, of course, more over here as well. Just wanted to show you, of course, what we're trying to aim for with the fill tool, as I just showed you. And let's stack on a few different elements here. Couple more up here. You can see sometimes they run a little bit astray, and I'm not really against that necessarily. These little ledges that stick out, it could be details that we just can't see. And also look at how far away we are as well from this actual unit as well. Now I'm going to draw in a straight line, and I might even draw in a slightly taller one as well, surrounded by another little box down here to just fill in. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer quickly. I'm going to draw in an ellipse. So I need to go ahead and tap on the magnet to turn it off. Draw in a little ellipse. Now that one didn't like it very much, so let's draw in another ellipse. And then once you've got that, you can go to your fill tool, fill it in, hit the tick. We now need to go to our edit and basic transform, and we need to put this into position. So we need to rotate it, scale it down in size, put it on the pole and hit the tick. And I'm going to tap on this and duplicate it multiple times. So I'm just tapping on it and duplicating it and then moving it up. Nothing we haven't already done. So tap on the layer, duplicate it, go to your create options and edit, basic transform, and just move that up. Hit the tick. And now we've got a few different satellites on there. You can tap on that and duplicate that too. you can go to edit and basic transform. So I'm not doing, although I'm going at a bit of a pace potentially, it's nothing we haven't already done. So duplicating the layer and just moving it using basic transform like so, and hit the tick. And then when you're done, just tap on it and merge it down. Keep tapping on it, merging it down into the main shape layer underneath. And now your building has got all of this really cool detail on the top. Now we could add some windows to this as well. So we'll create a new layer. We'll go ahead and hit the three dots and save though, like we should always do. And we're going to go ahead and draw in some windows. So we're going to create a magnet here. So we're going to tap on the magnet. We're going to go ahead and go to our tools up here. We're going to go to rectangle under shapes. We're going to go to our brush and go to the option of fills, solid fill. Our color we want to change to the yellow here, which is the third color from the right. And we're going to zoom in. So let's take a look at the shape we created. To a degree, you want to kind of think, okay, well, if I was to draw in a box here, what would it look like? So let's turn off the magnet. And then if you draw in a box and a window for the side profile of the building, what would look like it would fit within that a little bit? So let's do something like that. And then we'll go ahead and tap on the square tool when we're done. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a whole row. And of course, that's going to require a lot of duplicating. So tap on it and duplicate it. Grab your cursor, go up to edit and basic transform, move it across. Try and make sure that they're aligned with each other, just triple checking, and hit the tick when you're done. And now just repeat that all the way across. So this is the last one for me. I'm going to hit the tick when I'm done, and I've done in my whole row here. Now it's slightly more off to the left, that's fine. I'm going to tap on all of my layers here just to make sure I've got one row of all of my windows. And I'll again move that edit, basic transform, and I'll just move that into the center a little better. Hit the tick when you're done. Now, if you're concerned that you may not have done that correctly, just if it's all on one layer, just grab your eraser and tap on it and use the monoline brush and set the size to something fairly small, like a 9, and just go ahead and tap on the magnet, and you can just draw in a horizontal line there, which will just tidy that up and triple check that they're not like a pixel off potentially. And then you can go ahead and go back to your brush. Now at this point, you want to tap on your windows, duplicate them, go to your create options and edit and basic transform, and move it down to the next part of the building. Make sure hopefully you move it straight down and hit the tick when you're done. Zoom out and you see all of your windows. And now just again duplicate it, grab your create options, basic transform, and just move it down again all the way down to the very bottom. So just complete that first. Awesome. Then you can go ahead and you can tap on this layer. You can change its blend mode from normal to the option of overlay, and that will come into play shortly. But that building is all done now, a little bit further back. Awesome. So that is ready to go for later. Let's just three dots and hit save. Now this building here that we created, let's tap on it and duplicate it. Out of the two, grab the bottom one, go to your tools and edit and basic transform, and just move it over here to the right hand side. I'd urge you to flip it horizontally as well if you can, and then just move it so that you can get a bit of a sort of glimpse at another building just in behind here. You could even move it a little bit further down. Try not to get it too close to your subject though, but just the corner of it will look great, and hit the tick when you're done. And you can then go ahead and tap on those layers and merge them together so the two buildings are on the same layer. Let's go ahead and make our way further back. So let's create another new layer, drag it underneath. We're going to go ahead now, and as the buildings get further back, they tend to get a little bit more simple. So on this layer, we'll change our color to the third color in the palette. We're going to go ahead and go to our brush. We're going to go to fills and solid fill. We're going to go to our create options. We're going to go to shapes and rectangle. And we're going to draw in another sort of layer of building. Now, just before you draw it, make sure you tap on this icon here and turn off the magnet, just so that you don't get snapped to the grid. You don't need to be. We'll draw in a building, say here, for example, and we'll let go, and we'll tap on our rectangle tool when we're done. Now, at this point, you can keep the rectangle tool if you wish and go back to it. So rectangle, and then you can go ahead and create some details on here. So like small little sort of triangles of sort, and rectangles of sort, some sort of mini simple details here. Just tap away every time you're done, but just keep it fairly simple if you can. And we don't want to add in too much because it's a little bit further away from us. Just something simple like this. Then what you can also do is create a new layer, and then just draw in a bit of a slim rectangle here, just sticking out like so, and then tap away. So you can see it just pops its head out just a couple of pixels. Then tap on that and duplicate it, and again repeat. So go to your edit options, basic transform, move that down. I'm not going to have a big gap in between them, so I'll tap on them and merge them together. I'll tap on the layer and duplicate it. So all we're trying to do is just very quickly use the same element, making sure that we don't have to draw things out every single time. You're more prone to make mistakes. Let's merge them together and duplicate it, and then grab your edit options and basic transform. So again, just keep repeating this now for the side profile of the building until you've filled in the whole thing. Now, just like before, when you're done filling in the side profile of the building, make sure it's on a separate layer, tap on it and duplicate it again, and just move it to the opposite side of the building. So edit and basic transform, just move it over to the right hand side over here with a similar sort of look to it, and to hit the tick when you're done. And you've got a building now with a bit more detail. You can merge all of that building all into one. So you've now got that on one layer. And just like we did with the previous one, we can tap on it and duplicate it. We can go up to our cursor and edit and basic transform. We can move this one up towards the left. We can make it a bit bigger if we want to. We definitely don't want to rotate it, so we can scale it up and down. Let's make sure we try our best to try and do that. So let's go to edit. Let's go to distort. That might be better. We can make that a little bit taller. I'm going to make it sit in behind there just a little bit if I can. Hit the tick when I'm done, and that looks fine. We can then move on, so we can tap on them and merge them into one layer. Now the next layer back gets really simple. So I'll create a new layer and I'll drag it underneath those buildings. I'll go to my colors. I'll grab the fourth color in the palette. We will go ahead and we will continue to use the option of solid fill and the rectangle. And we'll create some new buildings. So we'll create another building back here. So I'm going to create another one in there. I'll tap away when I'm done with it. But what I will do is I'll just give it a tiny bit of detail, in a sense, by creating the kind of building block kind of style look to the top of it. So just gradually getting a little bit smaller, and then maybe a block in the middle, and then some sort of thin point in the middle at the top. Tap away when you're done. Very simple building. That's all you need to do. You can then zoom out. You can draw in another building, say here, right next to it. A little bit of an overhang there. And we'll go ahead and tap away. We'll introduce one more, say, in behind here, leaving a gap between your buildings if you can. Tap away. Now, the only thing I want to change is, we'll keep this one as it is, but this one we'll just adjust it. We'll go ahead and we'll grab our eraser. We'll tap on the eraser and make sure we're using the monoline brush. And all we'll do is go from one corner over here, drawing a line across. Now, we're still using the rectangle, so we can tap on this icon here and turn it off. And then with the eraser, we can draw across a bit of a diagonal line. Hold your pen down so you get a nice straight line, and then just erase the top half. So you get a building with a bit of a slant on it. There we go. Get rid of that. And there we go. We've got a slightly different building. Then let's create a new layer. Let's drag it underneath the buildings we were last working on. But because we've completed a step, make sure to hit the 3 dots and save. And then we'll go to our colors. We will grab the next color in the palette, which is this one here. It's the fifth color in the palette. We want to make sure we go back to the option under our tools of rectangle and shapes. And we're going to create the final few buildings. So like another one here. I'll create another one a bit higher now. And another one off to the right hand side over here. We'll stack in another one in behind there too. That's nice and dense. You could even potentially add one in that gap as well if you wish. And then tap away when you're done. Now we're going to go ahead and work in the background. So we're going to go create a new layer, drag it underneath. We're going to go ahead and then go to our tools. We're going to go to the option of gradient. So we'll tap on gradient. We want to make sure we're on linear, and we're going to drag down to around about, say, here. So just beyond the midway point. Now the bottom dot here, you want to tap on it and you can change the color of it. And if you've got the palette, of course, we can change it to the correct color, which is going to be the far right color in the palette. Then tap on the top dot, tap on it and change it to the second color from the right. So it's ever so slightly different. And then you can hit the tick when you're done. And now you've got a beautiful sky in the background. Now let's go ahead and turn off the rectangle. We then want to go ahead and go to our tools and change it to the circle. We're going to go to our colors and change it to the color in the far right of the palette. And your brush still wants to be the fills brush and the solid fill. Now what you can do is you can tap on the magnet here, and then that will allow us to create a circle in the middle. So we'll create a new layer. Now making sure the magnet is turned off, so it needs to be grayed out like this. we want to go ahead and find this point here, the middle part of our canvas and this area here, and just draw in a sun that's going to sit up here. Tap on the circle tool when you're done. Now tap on this layer and change its blend mode from normal to the option of linear dodge. It's going to go white temporarily. Then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and go up to your, let's go to our tools, let's go to edit, let's go to the option of edit and filters, and then we're going to go to structure and blur. Now from here, we can go ahead and blur the edges and you get this beautiful kind of sun-like glow. I know a lot of people actually struggle with the fact that you can't increase the opacity or the amount, sorry, of the blur. So if you don't have that, just drop it down to 50 or whatever you can actually see on your device and just duplicate it again. So do the blur again. For me, I'm going to go up to around about 75% and hit the tick when I'm done, and I've got a beautiful sun in the sky. Now we do have a couple more layers to introduce in between the buildings. So we're going to go ahead and tap on this layer here. That is the far back buildings. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to go to our colors and triple check it is the far right color in the palette. And we're going to go to our brush and we're going to go to the option of, we're going to go to sprayers. We're going to go to the option of the soft airbrush. My opacity and flow is usually a little bit lower, about 65, just because I prefer it like that. And the size, I'm going to make it really large, around about 1,000. What we want to do is we want to kind of fade out the bottom of these buildings, creating a bit of a gradient up them. But ultimately they need to kind of fade out into the orange tone at the bottom. So just a little something like this. And then repeat that, go forward in front of the next set of buildings and create a new layer. And again, go left to right, fading them out primarily towards the bottom. And then again, tap on those buildings, create another new layer, and then add in another bit of sort of just glow from the bottom almost. And then we're going to go in front of our windows, create a new layer. We're then going to go ahead and drag from left to right in front of this building as well, right down in front of us until the bottom's nicely blended out. The only thing we might want to then do is tap on our windows, tap on them again and bring the opacity down of them. You could bring it down to around about 50% potentially. And if you go ahead and you turn off your guide now, because you don't really need that with the perspective, you can pinch with 2 fingers and go full screen with 4. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, this is actually part 1 of 2 parts. You can change it to this nighttime variation using part 2. Now, part 2 is for members only. Members are supporters of the channel that get early access to tutorials, as well as now an exclusive tutorial, as well as a loyalty badge beside your name that grows over time the longer you are a supporter. And you'll be helping me and the channel and the work that I do here by supporting me here on YouTube. But if you're done with today's design, you can tag me in your finished creations anywhere, such as Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm everywhere. And if you enjoyed this tutorial here on YouTube, you'll probably love this one on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.